Our next speaker for our Senior Day celebration, representing the graduating 3Ls, is Stephen Gilson. After obtaining his bachelor's degree from the University of Michigan, and then doing a stint or Teach for America in Central Harlem, Steve really took the law school by storm. He created a new first-year oral advocacy competition involving about half of the entire first-year class. He then entered his own competition and promptly won first place. Perhaps to quell any suspicion that he had rigged the contest for himself, he also won the National Judge Advocate General Moot Court competition and was a semifinalist in our own Campbell Moot Court competition. Steve was the managing editor of a new law journal that he helped to create, the Michigan Journal of Environmental and Administrative Law. He co-founded the Frank Murphy Society, a new student organization supporting public interest activities. He was a member of the Outlaws, our LGBT student organization, and a member of the Headnotes, our student a cappella choir. And he still managed to find time to study enough to secure a postgraduate associate position at the law firm of Shepherd Mullen in Washington, D.C. I understand that Steve attributes his success in law school not to his formidable legal skills, nor to his passion for justice, but to his having perfectly coiffed hair. I'm told he has spent more time working on his hairdo here than working on anything else. Not that I would personally know anything about that. Frankly, I don't know what the fuss is about. I looked at Steve's original law school directory photo. His hair looked like a cross between Justin Bieber and a U of M football helmet. Apparently, it's gone through several permutations since then. Most recently been described by a friend as a carefully disheveled pompadour. Now, I think Steve's great success in law school is attributable less to his hair than to his chutzpah. At the end of Steve's first year, he ran as a candidate for a 2L class representative. There were 3 candidates for the 3 open positions, so all 3 candidates were guaranteed to win. And yet, Steve still campaigned. He posted many campaign slogans around Hutchins Hall, including Stephen Gilson, because apparently he doesn't know he's running unopposed. And my personal favorite, vote for Steve Gilson, even if he's your last choice. Well, Steve, 2 years later, you must have impressed the graduating JD class, because you are now finally their true first choice for something. So please check your hair one last time and come address your classmates.
Thank you very much. That means a lot to me, coming from my own personal hair hero. And on the recommendation of the Attorney General of the United States of America, it's not its best, but it'll do. Faculty, staff, friends and family, Attorney General Holder, and of course, the class of 2012. It is an amazing honor to speak to you and in some ways for you today. I know I'd be neglecting my duty as the class speaker to my own class if I didn't begin by recognizing the families in the audience that have supported all of us through our journeys here. To our loved ones, thank you. Though you are not currently sporting these very fashionable berets or these shockingly unaffordable robes, many of you have worked just as hard as we have to bring us to this point. I know my parents have been waiting a long time for this moment because at the age of 5, I decided I wanted to be a lawyer. I already hear the laughter. Which means I either planned way too far in advance or I was the least interesting child of all time. Now, I wasn't a complete nerd. My backup plan was to become Superman, but my parents supported that decision immediately. My father, upon telling him, who at the time was not in the best position financially, told me that he would work hard to ensure that I went to college, that I went to law school, and that I would never have to limit my own dreams based on a price tag. My mother, too, found support in the form of a law school graduation card that she showed to me soon after I told her, and she said, "I know it'll take a long time, and it'll take a lot of work, but when you graduate from law school, on that day, I will give you this card." And for the past 20 years, that card has symbolized my family's unequivocal support for me and their belief that I could achieve this goal. And I know that this story is not unique. It's a narrative that is shared by many families in this room. So again, thank you. In the effort of full disclosure, I think my mother also bought the card because my backup plan was Superman and she didn't want a 30-year-old son running around her basement in a cape. But now, unfortunately, my mother cannot be here today to give me that card. Now, she is alive and well, but last Saturday she was rushed to the hospital with a brain aneurysm. I was on the first plane out, and in the midst of the confusion and being completely uneducated on the topic, I decided on the plane, using my phone just as we were about to take off, to post a very short Facebook plea that essentially asked for any advice or help from any one of my friends with regard to what to do in this situation, or perhaps surgeons or hospitals they had connections with. By the time I landed in North Carolina, not 3 hours later, I had 56 messages in my phone, in my email, and from members of this law school community. Many of whom had reached out to their own networks to help me and to speak on my mother's behalf. I got many calls, including one from a young woman who said after hearing about my mother from a friend of hers here, she spoke to her friend who happened to be the chief resident of neurology at Duke Medical Center. And they had a bed for my mother, and they would be willing to do the surgery that night if they needed to. Now, because of the complications and the fears that we had about transferring her, we weren't able to utilize the offer, but the power of the story remains the same. And as a side note, my mother did get the surgery, and she's doing very well, and I believe she's watching live from her hospital bed right now. Now, I've taken a lot from this experience, but I think there are 2 points that I want to share as being relevant here. The first is that it highlights the amazing community that is the Michigan Law family. I posted 5 sentences on a social networking site, and not only did I receive the outpouring of support in that immediate aftermath, but also over the next 48 hours I received over 200 additional messages. I counted, I mean literally, over 200 from this community alone. When discussing what the Michigan difference is, we could point to the top-notch faculty, to the standout academic offerings, and we would be right in both counts. But in my opinion and my experience, that true difference has been the students. We are a family, and we've been through a lot together. We are a caring group that when push comes to shove and a member is in need, we step up to the plate. We've seen a lot in these last 3 years, from staring down Professor Primus as he queried what we had for breakfast that morning, to seeing not one but 2 deans tear up the floor at Rick's American Cafe, which is not as fancy as it sounds. From non-pizza lunches to non-secret societies, from risers wraps to Rudman's rants, from law open to above the law, and from the, most recently, Abbott and Costello Act of Dean Baum and Dean Kanneker showing us how to get hooded. We've seen a lot over 3 years, and we've been through the ups and downs, and we've braved it together. Ours is a family of genuinely caring people, and I will truly miss being surrounded by this group of amazing individuals. I'm lucky to have been part of this group, and even more fortunate to call many of you my friend. The second reason I share this story is that it serves as a reminder of how unpredictable life can be. We have limited and indeterminate time here. And so while I offer no wisdom, because I have no more than anyone in this audience, for sure, I will echo the sentiment that Dean Kanneker made in his original speech, which is, I will ask for a plea. Pursue your passions deliberately and with urgency. Everyone has something they're passionate about, an issue that wakes them up in the morning, that drives them to instill positive change. But too often these things fall by the wayside in the pursuit of financial security. Now, make no mistake, we should reserve no judgment for those who would look to provide for their families, but we have to reject the idea that these are in fact the choices we have. It creates a false choice between financial security and pursuing a passion for change. I urge you not to succumb to that choice, not to give in to the cynics who would have us believe that in order to live comfortably, we have to live disingenuously. Growing up does not have to be synonymous with giving up, whether it's our ideals or our passions. And the reminders of our mortality should serve to drive us to pursue those passions with more vigor today than ever before. Benjamin Franklin said, "You may delay, but time will not." Today we receive a degree from one of the top law schools in the country, a degree that will place us in a position from which we are one step closer to being in a place to make great change. So live comfortably, support your family, support yourself, but don't use it as an excuse to ignore your passions. Time is short, and I urge you not to delay. In closing, what else is there to say than congratulations to the class of 2012. Sam Fader, 12, and a friend of mine here once described law school as, aptly I think, karma for the times you mess with your cat using a laser pointer. Of course, in law school, we are the cat. Well, today, whether or not we ever caught that red dot, we've made it and we've done it together. Never forget the relationships you forged here. Pursue your passions with urgency. And for goodness sakes, tell your family you love them. Thank you, and go.
Thank you, Steve, for that wonderful address. I thought your content and your appearance were exquisite. At this point, it is my great pleasure to welcome